So if you've ever been confused about what an escrow account actually is and why you even need one, you're not alone. I get this question literally 3 times a week. So in this video, we're going to break it down in simple terms so you understand exactly how escrow accounts work and if you need one when you buy your next property. My name is Lopatin. I've been a mortgage lender for 18 years. I've helped over 5,000 people buy their first home, buy investment properties, or refinance. I make videos like this to help people make better real estate decisions because I truly believe you can build wealth through real estate. I want you to borrow smart, I want you to repay smart, and I want you to be a smart homeowner. So if you're watching this video and you're not yet subscribed, click the link below, subscribe today for more tips and advice just like this. So the first place we should start is what actually goes into a typical mortgage payment, like what the breakdown looks like. So a standard mortgage payment can have up to 5 components. You got your principal, your interest, your taxes, your home insurance, and number 5 is your PMI. Not everyone has PMI, but if you don't put 20% down, you pay PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. Even though the principal and interest is one payment, it's broken down into 2 pieces because some of that money goes towards principal, some of that money goes towards interest. The principal goes towards paying down the mortgage balance. The interest is what you pay the bank for being able to take out a mortgage when you buy a home. Property taxes, pretty straightforward. Every piece of real estate has property taxes. Homeowners insurance, again, pretty straightforward. Flood, theft, fire, you need insurance when you have a mortgage and you own a house. And the last one is PMI. Again, if you don't put 20% down, you pay PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, and that's also baked into your payment. So every month you just write one check or you just go online and make your payment, and it's all packed in together. So now that you understand how the mortgage payment works and how the breakdown looks, let's really take a look at the escrow account and how it functions so you really understand it. So what is an escrow account? The word escrow typically means interest bearing. So an escrow account is an interest bearing account. The way I explain it to home buyers that we work with is I say it's kind of like a savings account that's connected to your mortgage. And every month you make your mortgage payment, the taxes and the insurance get routed to the savings account. So literally visualize you making a payment and that tax and insurance that is included in your payment gets routed to a savings account called your escrow account. You can actually see the balance of your escrow statement growing every single month because when you make those payments, that money gets, funneled to the savings account, right? And then based on when your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance is due, the lender who you pay every month, they take money from the escrow account, they pay the property taxes to the county, they pay the homeowner's insurance for you. All you have to do is just make your monthly payment every month. The term escrow can sometimes be confusing because in states like California, when somebody goes under contract, they use the word escrow to say that they're in contract. But that's not the term we're referring to. That's not the usage of the word we're referring to today. We're referring to how your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance are managed by your lender. So you make one payment every single month, and you don't have to go pay your tax bill every 6 months, and you don't have to go pay your insurance bill every year. Especially for first-time homebuyers, this can be very confusing. I think it's much easier just to make one payment every single month and let the lender handle paying everybody else when those bills are due. There are a few reasons why escrow accounts exist, why they're beneficial, and kind of who they help. So let's just kind of break those down to give you a better understanding. One reason escrow accounts exist is to help homeowners avoid making large lump sum payments for their property taxes or their home insurance. Let's say you bought a brand new home and your property taxes are, $6,000 a year. Other cities and states will require you to pay property taxes every 6 months. So that could be $3,000 every 6 months. Again, for new home buyers, that just might not be in their budget. So instead of paying a large chunk of cash every 6 months or every 12 months, that $6,000 is broken into 12 payments, right? 6,000 divided by 12 is $500. Every month, $500 is added to your mortgage payment. And then that money gets routed to the escrow account, right? That savings account that's set up. And when the tax bill comes out from the county, your lender pays that tax bill for you. So the escrow account serves as a way to help you avoid paying large lump sums for your taxes and your insurance. It also helps you keep a budget. Knowing what you have to pay every single month and not worrying about these big chunks of cash helps you refine your budget so you know how much you have to pay for your mortgage, your other expenses, and what you have left at the end of the month to save. Remember, real estate is a tool to build wealth. You need to understand what your budget is and how much money you have left at the end of the month so you can continue to save and invest to build wealth. So the escrow account is actually really encouraged by the mortgage lender and by the state and the county because it helps people pay their bills on time. At the end of the day, you got to pay your stuff on time, and having an escrow keeps that simple process for you. Here's another catch. A lot of mortgage companies, when I say mortgage companies, I mean lenders, banks, credit unions, your local community, establishments, anybody that you can take a mortgage from. A lot of those folks will actually penalize your interest rate. It might be 0.125% higher if you don't escrow, or they'll give you a better interest rate if you do escrow. Now, one benefit of having an escrow account is that you typically get a better interest rate compared to if you don't have an escrow account. And the reason for that is all the money that's in these escrow accounts is earning interest. It's sitting there for 6 or 12 months at a time. And guess who gets that money? Not you, not me, The banks, the credit unions, the mortgage companies, the big Wall Street banks, the retail banks, they love when homeowners escrow because all that money is a revenue stream for them. So if you do escrow, you typically get the best market rate available. And if you don't escrow, if you opt out of escrowing, which you can in certain situations, and I'll explain in a moment, you actually get penalized. Some mortgage companies or banks will increase your interest rate by 0.125 or even by 0.25 when you don't escrow. They encourage you to do it. It helps you stay on budget. It makes your bill payment processing situation easier. Instead of paying your taxes and your insurance and your mortgage company, you just pay the mortgage company every single month, and life is typically easier. But if you don't, be prepared to have a slightly higher mortgage rate, which it ain't fair, but welcome to the banking world. The house always wins. So as a potential home buyer, you're probably wondering, well, how do I set up the escrow account? And it's a common question I get all the time. Now, when you're buying a home, it can be overwhelming, right? Like you shop around for a few months, you get pre-approved, then you go under contract and you have to do an inspection, you have to do an appraisal, you have to work with a mortgage lender, get them all your paperwork. Now you're also packing up, you're trying to like shut off your utilities and, find a moving truck. Now you're like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out how to set up this escrow account. Rest assured, you don't have to figure out anything. The mortgage company and the title company, which is a third party, kind of like middleman, if you will, that's involved in every real estate transaction, they set the escrow up for you as a home buyer at closing. Part of your closing costs, even though it's not really a cost that you're paying as a fee, it's a cost of buying real estate. So every home buyer at closing, they bring their down payment money, their closing costs, and any taxes or insurance that's due to establish the escrow account. So as a home buyer, all you do is you write one big check or you send your wire, it goes to the title company, and at the title company, everything's broken down and itemized so that when you close later that day and you get your keys in your hand, the escrow account is already set up. So let's say you close in October, when you get your mortgage statement the following month to make your December payment, you'll see that the money that you actually paid at closing, part of it, has already been set up in the escrow account. So it's automated, it's simple, you don't have to do anything as a homeowner. It's done for you by the title company, by the lender at closing. Super simple. And a follow-up question we get often is, how do we manage the escrow account? You don't manage it. All you do is make your mortgage payment every single month. And like I said, look at your mortgage payments because you can see that the balance every single month should be going up and up and up. And then when your county tax bill is due, the lender gets a copy of the tax bill. You get a copy of the tax bill as well. Don't worry, you don't have to send your copy to the lender. They get one from the county, and the lender just sends a wire out. Let's say you live in Chicago, Illinois. When the bills come out from Cook County, mortgage lenders that are helping people with mortgages in that county, they send out hundreds of millions of dollars just like in one day. They just send out wires. It all goes directly to the county. You don't have to do anything. But again, watch your statement the next month, and you'll see that your balance was here the previous month, and when the tax bill or the insurance bill gets paid, bang, they just paid it, right? So then every subsequent month, you continue to make your payments. The escrow account continues to build. And 6 or 12 months later, lender pays the county again, balance drops. So that's really what happens. You just keep an eye on it. You don't have to do anything to manage it. It's all managed internally by the mortgage company or the bank that owns your mortgage. Another important detail to know about how escrow accounts are set up and managed is at closing, you're also going to bring a few months of reserves. And what that means is whatever your monthly tax amount is, let's say it's $500 a month and you need 6 months at closing, so that would be $3,000. The lender's going to have you bring $4,000 because they're going to have 2 extra months of reserves, which, 2 months at $500 is another $1,000. So you'd bring $4,000 at closing because some years taxes change, right? And we'll talk about that in a minute and kind of how that happens. What the lender wants to make sure of is that there's never an escrow shortage. So if a bill comes out in 6 months and it's higher than what the previous bill was, the reserve cushion in that escrow account will be there so that the lender can still make the payment. So at closing, you might be wondering, why am I bringing 8 months to closing for taxes instead of 6? It's because there's always going to be a 2-month cushion added for both taxes and homeowners insurance. And I haven't spoken as much about homeowners insurance because that amount is a lot smaller than taxes, but it functions the exact same way. Whatever the annual bill is for homeowners insurance, it's divided by 12. And so that monthly amount is added along with your taxes. And so if you need 6 months of taxes and 6 months of insurance to set up the escrow account, they're going to ask you to bring 8. And that way there's a 2-month reserve for both taxes and insurance because insurance premiums can change as well. Another interesting element to point out is at closing, in most states, it's common for a seller to provide what's called a prorated tax credit or a seller tax proration. The term is synonymous. Essentially what that means is sometimes the property taxes that are coming due are for the previous 6 months or for the previous year. So you, the homeowner, if you close today on a new home, and you start paying taxes, right, because they're baked into your escrow account with your mortgage payments, you just start paying your mortgage some of the taxes that are owed are actually the seller's responsibility. So what happens is at closing, in many states around the country, the sellers are going to give the buyer a prorated credit. So they're going to look at how many months of, let's say, 2024, the sellers lived in the home, and how much of the tax bill is the seller's responsibility. And the attorneys or the title company or the realtors are going to calculate that prorated credit, because it's not going to be for the full year if you're buying in the middle of the year. And that credit is going to be applied at closing to reduce some of what you owe. That way, when the bill comes out and it's actually the seller's responsibility, and you've been making mortgage payments for 6 months, you're not going to go knock on the seller's door wherever they move and go, hey, I just got your tax bill. This is your responsibility. Instead, every seller gives every buyer a credit, a prorated credit for the money that's going to be due down the road. So they're like, hey, here's the money now. You're going to be paying this bill for the next 6 months. We're even. Don't come knocking on my door. Proration, seller tax proration, prorated seller tax credit. It's the same synonymous term. It's just a portion of the taxes that the sellers owe, but the bill hasn't come out yet, but they're still responsible for it. In most states, I'm not sure all of them, but in most states, it's common for the seller to give that credit to the buyer. And again, it's all folded into the numbers and broken down at closing by the title company. It just gets set up, established, and taken care of at the closing, and you don't have to do anything about it. Now, hey, before we get into the rest of the video, if you're thinking about buying your first home, I've created a completely free homebuyer guide, which you can download by clicking the link in the description below. Now, back to the rest of the video. Do I have to escrow, Justin? That's a common question I get from our clients all the time, and the answer is it depends. Here's what I mean. I've been doing mortgages for 18 years. I've helped over 5,000 homeowners and investors buy homes, refinance homes, etc. Generally speaking, the standard guideline across the country when it comes to escrow accounts is if you're not putting down 20%, you absolutely have to escrow. It's not an option. It's not a choice. So if you're putting 5% down, 10% down, 12% down, 15% down, 19.9% down, you have to escrow. After you close, let's say a year goes by or 2 years go by, and you pay your balance down to where you have at least 20% of equity, you can then opt out of the escrow account and you can adjust that feature of your mortgage payments. But generally speaking, as far as I understand, every bank in the country that offers mortgages to homeowners buying, primary residence, I'm not talking about commercial properties, I'm not talking about storefronts, I'm talking about your primary home, a condo, a townhome, a single family home, or a 2 to 4 unit property, so residential properties. If you don't put 20% down, it's absolutely required that you escrow, not a choice. And here's the deal. There are some advantages. I own a home, I own a few properties, and I escrow on all of them. Here's why. I don't want to have to chase down the tax payments, and I don't like writing big checks when it's time to pay the bills. I'd rather just make my monthly payment. I know exactly what that payment is. I know that it includes my taxes. I know that it includes my insurance, and I just make my payment. It fits into my budget. I'm ready for it. And when the tax bill's due and the insurance company says I need to pay the premium, my mortgage lender pays it for me. I think that's a benefit. I think it's an advantage. I think for a first or a second time buyer or an investor, owning multiple properties and having different tax bills and different insurance bills and they're due at different times, it can get very confusing. So for me personally, I like escrowing. I like that it gives me a better interest rate. I like that it keeps my budget very clean. I know exactly what my bills are every month for my different mortgages. And again, I don't want to chase different vendors and pay people at different times. Now, conversely, some folks put 20% down, and even though all the reasons I just mentioned make sense, they like to keep their money in the bank. A few reasons people don't escrow is, number one, they prefer a much lower monthly payment, and they don't mind paying a large chunk of cash at the end of the year every 6 months, because some people work off commissions, some people get a bonus at the end of the year a few times a year, and some people just prefer to have a lower monthly expense, and their money that would have otherwise been sitting with the lender, they can keep that money invested, they can put that money in the market, they can put that money in a high yield savings account, and they get to have their money work for them. It might not be a significant amount of money that they're making in interest, but at the end of the day, having your money work for you and earning interest on your own money is a very strategic way to build wealth over the long run. Imagine owning a home or multiple homes for the next 30, 40, 50 years, and over that time, all your money that would have been in the escrow account, getting the lender interest and making them money, is in your own interest-bearing account, again, a CD, a high-yield savings, a brokerage account, and it's earning money for you that's compounding over the next 30, 40, 50 years. So a lot of our clients, especially ones that have much bigger tax bills, I'm talking 30, 40, 50 grand a year in taxes, yes, that exists. They typically don't escrow because they don't want this high mortgage payment that, imagine a $50,000 tax bill, that's $4,300 a month in taxes. They'd rather have that $50K in the bank earning and growing interest, and then they just cut a check when the bill is due. So if you do want to put 20% down, you have the option. You just got to think through the pros and cons. Some of the pros are you have a fixed budget every month. You don't have to write a huge check for taxes every 6 to 12 months. And you don't have to worry about chasing down insurance companies and counties, especially if you own multiple properties. You also get a lower interest rate. Some of the cons are you might have a slightly higher interest rate. You're responsible for managing your insurance, your taxes, which might get cumbersome if you own multiple properties. But your money is in your bank earning interest. So you just got to weigh the pros and cons, think through it, talk to your mortgage lender, talk to me, and let's figure out what makes the most sense for you. Now look, there can definitely be some drawbacks to having an escrow account. And over the last couple of years, this is the most common problem I've seen people facing. It's when your property taxes and or your home insurance rises and the lender does what's called an escrow analysis. They look at what the new taxes and the new insurance bills are, and they jack up your mortgage payment by $300, $400, $500 for the next 12 months. This is a pain point for a lot of people because out of the blue, they get their mortgage statement 1 month and it's $300, $400, $500 and it's been for the last year. You know, they're like, WTF, what the f? So they get this mortgage payment out of the blue and it's $300, $400, $500 higher than they've been used to paying for the last year. What happens is we find out as homeowners at the same time that the bank finds out or the mortgage lender finds out that the taxes went up. So the bank gets the tax bill. They look at it, they do an analysis, and they go, wait a second, we don't have enough money in the escrow account for the next 12 months because the taxes went up. So what we're going to do is we're going to raise your mortgage payment, you, Mr. Homeowner, for the next 12 months to not only have enough to pay the future bills, but again, to build up the reserves. Remember, we talked about reserves. That's a big drawback. That really frustrates people. And the only other option you have, instead of making a higher mortgage payment for the next 12 months, is by calling the lender, finding out what the shortage is, and maybe writing them a check. But that could be a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 check. So every year, taxes and insurance are subject to change. And in the last couple years, especially like since home values have gone up, we've seen property taxes go up quite a bit across the country. So in places like Florida, California, Texas, the Gulf Coast, even some places like in the Midwest where they're prone to tornadoes, homeowners insurance has gone up substantially. I see home insurance premiums in Florida anywhere from 10 to 30 grand a year. That's insane. Imagine paying that monthly, right? Versus annually. It's like pick your poison. So just know that every single year, your taxes and your insurance can potentially go up. And every single year, your mortgage company, your lender, your bank, whoever you're paying, will do what they call an escrow analysis. They'll look at the most recent tax bill. They'll look at the most recent insurance bill. If it hasn't gone up, your monthly mortgage payments are going to stay the same. If your taxes and or your insurance have gone up, your mortgage payment's going to go up a few $100s for the next year, or you can write a check, one lump sum, to bridge the gap, to eliminate the shortage, and then your mortgage payments will not go up substantially, but they'll go up a little bit because when your taxes go up and your insurance goes up, that's the new number that's divided by 12 and added into your mortgage payment so that money can go into the escrow account. Just know that your mortgage payments are never going to be the same for that 30-year term. They can change every year or two based on your taxes and or your insurance going up or down. So here's my advice. If you're about to buy your first home and you're not putting 20% down, you have to escrow, so you really don't have a choice. Now, that being said, understand what your annual property taxes are, understand and be aware of how much your home insurance is, and even though you're going to get those bills once or twice a year, the lender is going to pay them. Keep them organized, right? And the biggest piece of advice I'll give you is look at your mortgage statement every single month. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make after they buy a home is they just set up their mortgage payments on auto pay, or they just pay the bill online, but they don't really look at the statement. Look at your balance. Look at how much is going to principal and interest. Look at the escrow breakdown on the side. They kind of hide it sometimes on the side or on the bottom. Look to make sure that the amount coming out of your mortgage payment towards taxes and insurance is accurate. Look when your tax bills come out and see when your mortgage lender pays the tax bill. See when your mortgage lender pays the insurance bill. Be a responsible homeowner. Don't just dismiss it and ignore it like most of the country does. Most of the country doesn't even look at their bank statements and they don't know what their credit scores are, right? So don't be that person. Be a smart, responsible homeowner. Manage your stuff, take pride in it, right? And the more time that goes on, the more you learn and the better decisions you make on the next property and the next property and the next property. My advice for homeowners that are putting 20% down is talk to your mortgage lender and understand, number one, is there a penalty if you don't escrow? Again, most lenders will have a penalty, some might not. Number two, really think about your budget based on how much your taxes are. Is it more budget friendly to take that big tax bill and break it up into 12 little payments that are baked into your mortgage? Or is it more budget friendly for you to have a lower mortgage payment of just your principal and interest and then pay a big chunk of cash every 6 or 12 months for your taxes and your insurance. You got to figure out what makes more sense based on how much your taxes are, what you want your monthly expenses to be, and how you're paid. If you're W-2, you're on a fixed income, you make the same amount of money every month with no bonus, it's probably more affordable and budget friendly to pay everything monthly. If you have some type of fluctuation in your income, you're in sales, you have commissions, or you have a big bonus, you might prefer to have a lower monthly payment, just your principal and interest, and then you can save your money, or you can just wait for your bonus at the end of the year to pay the tax bill. At the end of the day, ask the right questions, find out if there's a penalty, and think through your budgeting so you can do what makes sense for your finances. So if you made it this far, you should know what an escrow account is, how it works, the pros and cons, and how it's set up. All right, we covered a lot. That was a meaty topic. If you or someone you know wants to buy your first home or purchase an investment property, we can schedule a free strategy call. All you have to do is click the link below in the description. We'll carve out 15 to 20 minutes. We'll talk through your budget, talk through your goals, and I'll help you strategize for that next purchase.